Gaurav Sawant. Day 7 and we are at the epicenter of the earthquake. Aftershocks and tremors still being felt, but now the real magnitude of this crisis, of this tragedy is actually becoming very apparent to people in Turkey and across the world. Non-stop, you hear the sirens of ambulances and even hearse vans as they carry those who are injured and those who've lost their lives. The death toll is sadly likely to touch, if not cross, 40,000, making it the worst earthquake in Turkey in the past 100 years. It was in 1939 that 30,000 people had lost their lives in the earthquake in Turkey. This time, the tragedy is even bigger.
Death,
The mass graves here at Kahramanmaraş. Not one, not two, not three, not a couple of hundred, but over 5,000 and counting. Right behind me you see JCB machines, earth diggers working constantly to dig more graves. There's no tombstone in some instances, like here. All you see is a number 267.
and destruction. Hope and humanity. Turkey picks up the pieces. India today at quake epicenter.
In Kahramanmaraş, the epicenter of the earthquake, the pain has to be seen to be believed. The enormity of the tragedy unfolds at the mass graves that are being dug. The cemeteries all across Kahramanmaraş, they've run out of space. So a mountainside, pine forests, a part of the mountainside was cleared to dig new graves. Initially for 500 and now for 5,000 bodies. This is where burials are taking place virtually 24/7 as relatives mourn, as ambulance sirens fill the air. There are more graves that are being dug. So while you have relatives who are mourning the dead, you have JCB machines, heavy earth diggers working round the clock, digging even more graves. And this number from 5,000 could actually double as rubble continues to be removed from most parts of Kahramanmaraş and other areas around the epicenter of this devastating earthquake. We bring you this report.
A week since the devastating earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, the countries are still counting the dead. The toll has crossed 33,000 and thousands are still missing. The numbers are so huge, even a dignified farewell for the dead is becoming tough. In Turkey, local authorities are digging mass graves to bury the dead. India Today's Gaurav Sawant travelled to Kahramanmaraş, where close to 5,000 bodies have been buried at the mass cemetery. Relatives can be seen hunting for names and numbers at the graves. One of the worst human tragedies unfolds.
Authorities, even before graves can be dug up and filled and families mourn the loss of their loved ones, there are more graves that are being dug up all along. There's no tombstone in some instances, like here. All you see is a number 267. In some instances, you see a name when the person has been identified. And more trees, amidst these pine trees, more graves are being dug at this epicenter of the devastating earthquake in Turkey, which now is the deadliest in the history.
While the nation grapples to come to terms with the horror, people and officials are not giving up hope. Rescue efforts are still on, with hundreds toiling round the clock. Rescue workers have saved several quake victims who have been stuck under the debris for over 150 hours.
This operation is difficult because we have many people lost, and after the cleaning area we can starting operation. We hope rescue the alive people.
The Turkish military is patrolling the worst hit areas of the earthquake after businesses and homes were looted. With more than 1 million people left homeless, many have started fleeing the country seeking refuge.
We are at the Gaziantep airport and people in thousands are leaving this place. Gaziantep has been one of the worst affected places in this flood, and after day 7, several people say they've either been living in buses like this or in tents. Their houses are completely destroyed. They have absolutely no idea how long will it take for their homes to come up. So the government has announced all those living in the earthquake affected areas and want to leave for safer areas like Istanbul or Ankara or other parts of Turkey are free to do so. With cameraman Kripal Singh at Gaziantep, Turkey, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. But amidst these reports of gloom, doom and despair, there are also reports of hope, of a 2-month-old baby who was recovered after 128 hours. And that spurs rescue workers, more than 1 lakh rescue workers engaged across the central and southern part of Turkey to continue non-stop to try and save lives. Then there was this report of a 60-year-old man buried in the second basement of a multi-storied building that had collapsed. They reached out to him, they rescued him. He was not only alive, but he also pumped his fist in the air in a way that he's survived against all odds. He's encouraging Turkey to do the same. Not just survive against all odds, but rise once again. That's the effort of the rescue workers, of the aid workers, of the police, of the army, and of foreign aid workers who are working here relentlessly in an effort to save as many lives as possible now, and then perhaps to help Turkey stand up once again.
Amid death, disaster and despair, and race to save lives from under massive piles of rubble, tales of miracle rescue, survival and hope. A 2-month-old baby was rescued from under the rubble in Turkey's Hatay on Saturday. The toddler remained buried under the massive chunks of concrete for 128 hours after the killer quake. After desperate search for survivors, rescue workers traced the baby and painstakingly brought the child out alive. As onlookers clapped, cheered and shed tears of joy. Over life triumphing over death, the baby was immediately taken to the hospital for medical checks.
Ne tatlısı. He? Geleceksin yanıma. Geleceksin yanıma. Gel.
A 9-year-old boy was pulled out alive from the ruins of a collapsed building in Turkey's Gaziantep nearly a week after the quake. Jubilant rescue workers whisking him away on a stretcher for treatment. Amidst the devastation, rescue teams from India and across the world continue to save as many lives as possible before it's too late. Earlier, a 19-year-old woman was rescued after spending over 120 hours under the rubble in Kahramanmaras. The woman was heard shouting, "I'm alive," when search teams managed to locate her. She was surrounded by rescuers before being taken to hospital on a stretcher. In another miracle rescue, a Spanish team dug out a 50-year-old woman who had been under the rubble of a collapsed building for over 144 hours. Thousands of rescue workers are scouring through flattened neighborhoods despite freezing weather. And tales of survival come as major morale boosters for these saviors. Bureau Report, India Today.
Family members refuse to give up. Family members want to cling on to every sign of life and hope. In fact, they come and look through this rubble day in and day out. The other day, we saw this lady, very old. She was clawing at this debris, at the rubble with her hands. No gloves, in this biting cold. Her fingers were bleeding, and yet she was clawing at the debris in an effort not to bring out her daughter. Her daughter was no more, but to bring out her daughter's doll. Because every little thing gives hope that yes, they must continue to live on, and if not for their families, but for those who have survived. And that's the story of the volunteers here. There may be pain and grief in their own family, but they're going out to help others. And some of the volunteers we spoke to, some of the people we spoke to, they said that gives them hope to carry on. It gives them reason to live on.
Horrific scenes from Turkey and Syria. Death toll mounting. Indian men and women in uniform toiling with NDRF dog squad comprising of Romeo and Julie to sniff out life from under the rubble.
This bark of Romeo and Julie, the two sniffer dogs, is actually a bark of hope, because this is when everyone around realizes perhaps there still is life. It's very late at night, it's biting cold, but if you look, there are only Romeo, Julie and their handlers and the NDRF team that's on top of this cluster of demolished, of buildings that have been damaged very severely.
Teams of human and canines often work late into the night and even after dawn, racing against time, searching for survivors.
अभी यहाँ पर डॉग ने एक लाइव विक्टिम को डिटेक्ट किया है. उसने क्योंकि बार्क किया है तो प्रोबेबिलिटी हो सकती है, जिसको हम कंफर्म कराते हैं दूसरे डॉग से. और अगर दूसरा डॉग भी बार्क करता है या तीसरा डॉग भी बार्क करता है अवेलेबिलिटी के हिसाब से, उसके बाद टेक्निकल सर्च कराई जाती है. तो वो अपने लोगों को तैयार कर रहे हैं टेक्निकल सर्च के लिए.
Meanwhile, operation is going on in the dark of night in Gaziantep. Several members of NDRF along with Turkish rescue teams are toiling hard to save lives.
We hope rescue the alive people. Yeah.
So the effort even now in this race against time is to rescue people alive, and that is why you notice very experienced machine operators are being used here to remove all the rubble from the path for ambulances to be able to move quickly and to be able to rescue people from the debris here.
The massive piles of rubble are hard to remove, and heavy machineries are being used with extra care, keeping those still under rubble in mind. The locals are pitching in with food and warm drinks, keeping the morale up.
that's such a noble gesture when you see a hot cup of tea or coffee or just a warm word that comes to those who are impacted by this devastating earthquake. I wish you all the best. Please do continue the great work that you're doing here. This is how Turkey is actually coming together.
Turkish rescue workers paid their respects to the countless unidentified who lost their lives.
As a mark of their respect, all of them stood in silence as a mark of respect for those who had died in the earthquake here. While they finished their work today, after paying respect to those who died, they will return once again tomorrow for this task to continue. And this task will continue for a very long time. Not just search and rescue, then it would turn into relief and rehabilitation.
It's Turkey's darkest hour, and these brave souls are doing everything possible to help and heal. With Gaurav Sawant and Kripal Singh in Turkey, Bureau Report, India Today.
Close to 40,000 people dead, a major part of southern and central Turkey devastated. The pain is immense. We will continue to report from ground zero, but that is all camera person Kripal Singh and I have for you on this special broadcast on India Today from Kahraman, Maharashtra, the epicenter of the earthquake in Turkey. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
You've been in GP2 before and now with Formula E, a very different sort of a format, very different sort of an experience. But now that you're here, you've trained on the simulator so often. Now you're here at the racetrack and we're walking the track. How different is it from the simulator experience? Because this is the first time that you are seeing the Hyderabad racetrack.
Yeah, it's the first time. So far,